Welcome to the Explainer. So, have you ever had that feeling like you're following a script you didn't even write? Today, we're going to uncover a kind of hidden map, a really powerful way of understanding how we see reality, how we create meaning, and how we follow these invisible stories that guide our every move.
All right, let's kick things off with this idea from psychologist Jordan Peterson, that a lot of what drives us is happening behind the scenes, We're often moved by these forces we don't fully get, following a map we never even knew was there.
So Peterson argues that there are basically two ways we look at the world. The first one, which is super common in science, sees the world as a collection of objects, a place of what? But the second way, and this is maybe way more fundamental to how we actually live, sees the world as an arena for action, a place of how.
And that brings us right to our first big idea. The world we really experience day to day is fundamentally a place where we do things, not just a bunch of stuff we observe.
I mean, think about it. Even something as simple as looking at someone's face, that's not a passive thing at all, right? Your brain is actively making choices, moving your eyes, pointing that high-res part of your vision right at their eyes to figure out what they mean. Just by looking, you are already acting on the world.
The reality all around us is it's a flood of infinite detail. It's totally overwhelming. So to do anything at all, just to get by, we have to filter out almost everything and just focus on what's relevant to us. But how on earth do we decide what's relevant? Well, we decide what to focus on by creating a frame. And that frame, for all intents and purposes, is the inner story that guides our attention and everything we do.
So this frame of perception, you can think of it like a spotlight that we shine into all that chaos. It's the structure that cuts right through the noise and shows us a path forward. Seriously, without it, we'd be lost in the static, completely paralyzed.
And every single one of these frames, these little inner stories, has the same simple universal structure. There's a point A, that's the present, which you see as not good enough in some way. There's a point B, a future you want that's better, and then there's the path, the sequence of actions that you believe will get you from A to B.
So here's the really crucial part. This whole structure, it's not just some mental tool. It is a story. We don't just live in the world, we live inside a narrative that we are constantly telling ourselves, and that narrative is what gives our world meaning and tells us what to do. Okay, so if we're living inside this story, moving from point A to point B, how do we know we're actually on the right path?
This is exactly where our emotions come in. They aren't random or irrational at all. They're actually the super sophisticated guidance system, constantly giving us feedback on our journey.
And the simplicity of this emotional feedback loop is pretty profound when you think about it. Positive emotions like enthusiasm, interest, hope, that's your internal GPS saying, yep, you're on the right track. But those negative emotions, anxiety, frustration, disappointment, that's the alert system screaming obstacle ahead.
You can literally think of your emotions like the cybernetic system in a heat-seeking missile. They're always making these little micro-adjustments, telling you when you're on target and when you've gone off course, helping you zero in on your goal. But what happens when we run into an obstacle that's so big, it doesn't just block the path, it completely shatters the entire map? What happens when our whole story falls apart?
Let's take Peterson's simple example. A kindergartner has a very basic story for the day. I'm at home, that's point A, and I'm going to school, that's point B. It's a simple, predictable story.
Then, suddenly, an anomaly. A huge, barking dog appears. Now, this isn't just a minor problem. It's a monster that creates real fear and completely invalidates that simple old story. The map from A to B is now totally useless. The world is not what the child thought it was.
But by making the choice to face this obstacle instead of running away, the child does something incredible. They don't just get back on the old path, they build a new one. A new, more sophisticated story, one that now includes the scary dog, and more importantly, the discovery of their own courage.
This is what's known as a meta-story. It's not just a story, it's a story about how stories themselves change. It's this heroic process of letting an old, inadequate frame die so that a new, stronger, and more developed one can be born right out of the chaos.
And this leads us to the most important question of all. If we're the authors of our own stories, and if we're destined to face obstacles that are going to test them, how do we choose a destination, a point B, that's actually worthy of the journey? Well, the ideal goal isn't something easy. It should be challenging. It should be something so meaningful that the very act of going after it transforms you into a more capable person.
It's a goal that maximizes that deep feeling of meaning, that positive emotion that tells you you're on the right track. You know, like learning an instrument. It's a game that becomes more rewarding the better you get at playing it.
So here's the bottom line. You want to aim at something of such high value that the sense of meaning you get from the pursuit makes the inevitable suffering and risk of life worthwhile. That meaning is the signal that your story is aligned with growth and your own potential.
Ultimately, this whole framework leaves us with a really personal question. Since you're the one living inside your own story, what is the aim you can set for yourself that will generate enough meaning, enough enthusiasm to justify the adventure, and to help you face the dragons you'll inevitably find along the way?